It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. We got on the phone with us State Representative Dan Sullivan. Dan, welcome, sir. How you doing?
Well, good morning, Paul. I'm not in the studio today. I'm down here in Little Rock, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on. You know, I was listening to that last segment, and I was, of course, listening to the show, as I always do, last week. And you had the quote from Frederick Bastiat. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Bastiat or Bastiat.
Bastiat?
Yeah.
Yeah, when it says, when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. Now, I met with that midwife board my first term a couple of years ago, and they just cannot understand why anybody would select freedom and choice over being regulated. It was a new thought to them.
Wow. Yeah, it certainly is. A microcosm. I think if you can't let women decide, who they want to have their own baby, and if you're afraid of women being able to choose where they have it, who delivers it, I mean, we've really gone down. I mean, we really are terrified of people having the freedom to just govern themselves and make their own decisions in life.
Well, and that's what I want to talk about today, and I've got a lot. I want to come back next week to talk about some more things that are going on. So you kind of, if I'm getting a little too quick or something you don't understand, jump in. But the reason I wanted to come on today is just to talk about what big government is doing. And that, as you said earlier, that midwife process is just a microcosm of that. I am the chair on the Legislative Audit Committee. I'm the chair of the subcommittee for the audit of Medicaid. And we've had some findings come about here in the last couple of weeks. Been working on for over a month. And we have a meeting on this Friday at 9 a.m., Medicaid audit, that we're going to talk about and try to dig a little bit deeper because we still don't have all the answers. But I want to give just a short background to what we've been talking about and what you've been talking about the power of the medical lobby.
Yeah, let me stop you here. I want you to talk about that. Conduit for Commerce came out with a paper a couple of weeks ago, Follow the Money, and it really charted, who are the players in Little Rock, who are the kingmakers. Their PACs back this candidate, the candidates win. And the healthcare lobby was, a number one. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. My opponent was a doctor, Dr. Peck in Jonesboro. Dr. Peck outraised me over 2-to-1, over $100,000 in a little old house race in northeast Arkansas. Dr. Peck hired attorneys in D.C. and admitted this, hired attorneys in Washington, D.C. and in Little Rock to investigate me for the past 15 years. They didn't find anything. He also had a surrogate file an ethics complaint against me. I had to go to Little Rock twice. I had to consult with an attorney. Matter of fact, I was just cleared of that 5-0 after they heard the evidence. I was cleared of that 5-0, and it took about a minute for that to happen. Thank you, Ray Hackworth. But the tactics that they use in this, he sent out a mailer and that I was guilty of Medicaid fraud. And that mailer went out just a few days before the election, and I didn't have much time to refute that. Fortunately, the Attorney General and the Inspector General both submitted letters to me and to the Jonesboro Sun, our local paper, saying that was not true. So this medical society and the people that supported my opponent, not Dr. Peck, nor any of his supporters ever came and said, Dan, that was really a shame the way Dr. Peck ran that campaign. I had a number of voters come to me and tell me that they changed their vote over that. I've had a couple of voters come and say that they, unfortunately, had voted early, and they believed those things. So the medical lobby is, particularly, I think, our medical society, because most of the donations came from doctors. We had one of the leading doctors, several of the leading doctors in Jonesboro, doctors from UAMS supporting this. and they are just shameless in the way they will go about trying to win at all costs.
Now, so
Similar to
the reason, we're talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan, the reason you had this big pushback, Dan, from the medical community backing your opponent and then finding a doctor to run against you is because you had tried to expand scope of practice for advanced practice nurses, correct?
Yeah, go figure. I worked on the scope of practice legislation for advanced practice nurses and for telehealth, and the medical society and the medical lobby has defeated it each time. And that's why, Dr. Peck hired or owned, however you want to use that, 20 APNs, advanced practice nurses, and his supporters were in that field. Matter of fact, Paul, there's some real breaking news on that. I can't go into it a whole lot right now because I want to get to this Medicaid audit, but I think we've got some changes coming in that. Again, I don't want to go into it. I'll get off on a sidetrack. I'm getting excited about all of this because I think we may finally move it down the road. But the medical lobby refuses even to negotiate on those issues. There's just no. And they have the money and the power to absolutely take you out, which they tried to do for me. I'm just really fortunate that I have a great campaign manager, my wife, who advises and consults with me, and we just know a lot of people, and the people in my district know that I represent them. I don't represent the administration in Little Rock. I don't represent the doctor lobby, the medical lobby. I represent the people of our district and fight for freedom. And I think that's why I won that race, 54 to 46, I think.
Talk a little bit about the stuff we've been hearing about how we have overpayment in the Arkansas Works program to insurance companies.
Yeah, sure. And, there are actually about three things we're going to talk about on Friday where we just don't understand what DHS is telling us. But, we run what's called a Paris match, which is like the city. It's a poverty index match. It's people on Medicaid who are on Arkansas Medicaid. We submit our list to the feds, and the feds then run a comparison to see what people get Medicaid in multiple states. So it's not just Arkansas Works, it's all Medicaid. And again, I'm trying to get more of the details. DHS in some cases has not been very forthcoming. So we want to dig into this a little bit deeper and find out exactly what's going on. That when you have the feds then send back who they have who are getting Medicaid in multiple states. So for example, in 2017, we found that there were 33 or 32,000 people getting Medicaid in multiple states in Arkansas. They sent those people, the names back to us. We investigated, DHS investigated. They found 7,000 valid and 25,000 over the course of a year who were not valid, and we removed them from the roll. Just so your listeners understand, we are paying all Medicaid for those multiple times. And in the case of Arkansas Works, we're actually paying the insurance company $600 a month. It's an estimate, about $600 a month every month that those people are on the roll. So then in some cases, not the entire 25,000, I don't think, but in some cases, we are paying that to the insurance companies who are getting Medicaid in multiple states. So roll that forward to 2018. I had a whistleblower or anonymous caller who called me and told me where to look and what to do. Matter of fact, they're a listener to and a follower of Conduit News. I hope that person is listening today. But they told me and gave me some insight into where to look. So I started asking our Medicaid why we hadn't run this Paris match in first quarter and second quarter of 2018. And we finally ran it in August. So our numbers in 2017, we had 25,000 people that we removed from the roll. In 2018, we haven't removed anybody. So people who are on Arkansas Works, and we're paying $600 a month, and we're paying that to the insurance company, we can't go back and recoup it. So I found out yesterday that number in the Paris match, we just got the results back for third quarter of 2018, and it was over 18,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah. And my point is, Paul, I'm met for hours with our Medicaid people and people at DHS, and those are hardworking people doing the very best they can to match this. But when government gets so big and you're trying to manage over 1 million people for all these services, are you in prison? Are you out of prison? Are you making too much money? And people are churning on and off, and they're moving in the state, moving out of the state. It's almost impossible to track all of that and to keep up with it. So our people need to realize as government grows, and, for example, Arkansas Works, as government grows, our ability to track those people has a loss ratio that we just lose money because we can't possibly track all the things that are going on. Specifically, for example, you might have a child who lives with mom, and mom is getting the Medicaid on that child, and the child goes to live with dad in another city. Then they go to live with grandma in another state, and then they come back into Arkansas, and as that churn happens, it's almost impossible to track those people and people in that state for all the services, the multiple services that they get.
So in that case, you have, in all these situations, you move. Let's say you move out of state, and you never come back. I mean, how long? And so you're talking about essentially we didn't run this to the third quarter. So for over 2 quarters, you have Blue Cross Blue Shield essentially getting $600 a month, and yet the person is not qualified, should not.
Right.
The insurance company is essentially benefiting from fraud, and you're saying there's no way for us to say, hey, Blue Cross Blue Shield, you owe the state this much money because we paid it to you and we shouldn't have.
That's correct. That's part of Obamacare and Arkansas Works and private option. You cannot recoup that money. It goes out the door the first day of the month or the first week of the month or the quarter, and they don't get removed. I think I'm going to ask that question Friday. How quickly, when we find this information out, how quickly can we remove them? I mean, for example, we didn't run it till third quarter. I'm assuming we haven't investigated yet. So I'm assuming if we haven't found these people, we'll go ahead and pay third quarter for them too. So your people can multiply this conservatively, multiply $600 a month times, 10,000 people times 6 months.
Yeah.
That's conservative. That's a Joe can probably calculate.
Hey, Joe, do calculate. 10,000 people. 10,000 people times 600, okay, and then 600. So 10,000 people times $600 a month for 6 months. So then you want to multiply that number by 6 and get us a dollar figure on that. We're talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan times 6. He is calling from Little Rock. So tell us about this Medicaid. Tell us about the subcommittee meeting tomorrow that you're having. You're the chair of. And that's happening tomorrow on Friday.
Yeah, we're going to dig down into this report that we've gotten back, investigation, and find out where they are in the investigation. We're going to find out what this 18,000 represents, and how our state is at risk. The problem, and our Medicaid folks told us initially it was a glitch in the system. Of course, you know me, Paul, and I said, well, so what's a glitch? They said, well, it's just a glitch. We're fixed now. Well, as I dug down into the glitch, I found out that we had a transition in contractors. Northrop Grumman had the contract. Contract went to a different company, Deloitte. Northrop Grumman had some problems in working with Deloitte, but it's still a responsibility of DHS. But when we run the report, we don't run the report correctly.
Yeah.
And so we can't blame that on anybody but ourselves. So even when we ran it incorrectly first quarter, you're thinking second quarter, this is a big deal, 25,000 people. So second quarter, let's really be on top of this. Well, apparently when we submitted it, we didn't do it again correctly. So we're wondering, one of the questions we'll have Friday is who's responsible for that? If we have contractors who are not fulfilling their obligations, and that risk to the state is, millions of dollars, then, who's responsible for that? Northrop Grumman, Deloitte, DHS? And, of course, Paul, you have to remember that in the case of Arkansas Works, the state budget is only 4% of that.
Yeah.
So if we lost, did Joe get the number yet?
$36 million.
Oh, well, we got that. I'll write you a check.
Yeah, it's no big deal. Hey, we are out of time. State Representative Dan Sullivan. Yeah, it's $36 million wasted. Keep us posted on what happens Friday. Best of luck to you. Thanks for calling in, sir. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
All right. Folks, are going to go to break. Back in just a moment.